Alright, I'm gonna try my best to make this video as clean as possible. I got no script, I got literally nothing. I'm just gonna talk straight up about this manga that I'm gonna be reviewing. And this manga that I'm gonna be reviewing is Hell's Paradise. You may or may not have heard of Hell's Paradise. It's this very dark shonen manga, and it's extremely dark for a shonen series. In fact, I'm really shocked at the fact that it's a shonen series because it's way more seinen than you would expect, and I absolutely love that. Which is why in the title of the video I refer to Hell's Paradise as a dark shonen, and a dark shonen that most of you probably have not heard of. Because let me tell you, I hear a lot of stuff about Chainsaw Man, I hear a lot of stuff about Jujutsu Kaisen, but I don't hear that much being talked about with Hell's Paradise. And to be honest, I think that's a bit undeserving, especially because Hell's Paradise, for the genre that it's in and for the theme that it's trying to present, it actually does what it sets out to do pretty much perfectly. It's just a very well told story with a lot of well written characters, and overall I think it's just a really enjoyable read for a 127 chapter, I think, manga. And it's gonna get an anime adaptation, which I'm really excited for because it's by Studio Mappa, and we all know Studio Mappa at this point, they're pretty much just killing themselves with all the content they're trying to put out. But it is what it is, as long as one day they pick up Berserk. Yeah, it's never gonna happen. I kind of just gave up. So let's get right into what Hell's Paradise actually is as a story. I'm gonna give you a basic synopsis. So this is, as I mentioned, a relatively dark shonen series, and it basically takes place in, I don't know what you'd call it, I guess like a city or a state, and it's ruled by this, I guess you could say, emperor whose name were never even revealed, which is kind of interesting. Now, to be fair, his name might be revealed at the end of the story, but I have not yet reached the actual ending, but that's neither here nor there. The story's main character is Gabimaru, and the first introduction we get to this main character, literally in the first chapter, is that he's suicidal. Yup. He pretty much just gave up on life. He's nihilistic and he just does not give a shit about what happens. So he pretty much just lives out his life trying to die, I guess you could say. He's a prisoner and he's supposed to get executed. And no matter what the people try to do to execute this man, they just cannot seem to do it. Until one day, that all changes. Pretty much this very skilled swordsman named Sagiri from this clan called the Asaemon clan comes in and basically reveals herself to be like one of the strongest swordsmen, I guess you could say, or in this situation probably one of the strongest executioners. She's known for having the sharpest blade, and like no matter who it is, she's able to instantly decapitate them. And Gabimaru, being who he is, being Gabimaru the Hollow, which is the nickname he's given, he has like cat-like instincts. Like he knows if something's up. So he knows something's up with this Sagiri girl. So he's like, alright, hold up. I know that this girl's actually about to kill me and I'm actually about to die. So he reacts. And this is very unexpected because Gabimaru is like nihilistic. Like he's given up on life. He does not give a crap about what happens. He kind of actually wants to die. Yet what's interesting is that he reacts in a way that doesn't seem like he doesn't want to die. It actually seems like he wants to live, and that's where the story really begins. So basically the two characters go at it and they fight pretty much, and we learn here that Gabimaru is actually one of the strongest ninjas in his village, I believe. He's like the lead ninja of his village. He's like the Gabimaru, which is actually a name given to him, which we learn later in the story. But he pretty much battles it out with this Sagiri girl, and in the end, nothing really happens in the end. Like they don't kill each other or anything. Instead, what happens is this mission that gets assigned by the shogun, or again the emperor, or whoever you want to call him, and that mission is pretty much the basis of the entire story. The mission is for these prisoners, people including Gabimaru and a bunch of other characters we have not yet been introduced to. It's for those prisoners to go onto an island escorted by people like Sagiri, the same people from her clan, to go onto this island to retrieve this elixir of life. This elixir of life is the goal of the entire story. It's the reason why every character goes on that island pretty much, and it's the reason for Gabimaru's main drive. At this point, Gabimaru is no longer nihilistic because he realizes that he has a single goal in life. And that single goal in life, as cliche as it might seem, it's to go back to his wife, because he had a wife which is pretty much the daughter of the shogun, and he always kind of took his wife's love for granted. But when he's on the brink of death numerous times, and when he's about to be executed, especially by Sagiri, he realizes that he does have a purpose in life. And this is where Gabimaru's main character moment shines in the early stages of the story. So pretty much he wants to retrieve this elixir of life, because it is said that whoever retrieves the elixir is the one that gets to go back and be released from the prison, essentially. And that's all Gabimaru wants, is to be released from the prison to go back to his wife. So this is where the story starts, and all these prisoners are such interesting and intriguing characters. Characters like Yuzuriha, Chobei, and Gantetsusai are very intriguing side characters that we are introduced to pretty early into the story, and they all develop in their own ways, and some of them end up going. I'm not gonna say who ends up going, but the way that the deaths of the characters turn out are very satisfying for pretty much every character that I can think of. I can't really think of a character that goes out in a bad way. I think they got rid of the characters that needed to be gotten rid of, and they kept the characters and developed them when needed, and they actually developed some characters very well. So they get to this island, right? And this island is still a mystery. We literally know like nothing about the island, and that's kind of the beauty of Hell's Paradise. It's not in one of the genres listed, but I truly think of it as a mystery story, because the setting itself is completely new to us. We know nothing about this place. Just like the characters, it's as if we are exploring this place ourselves. And if you like mystery stories, then Hell's Paradise is honestly going to be a very enjoyable one. Think of it as like a dark shonen yet mystery type story, and if you think of it that way, I mean, what's stopping you from checking it out? So this island is inhabited by like these dark and mysterious and honestly gruesome monsters. Like, it just looks like apostles from Berserk. Obviously not to the extent of Berserk, because Berserk is one of a kind with its horror, but some of these monsters look kinda ridiculous. And at the beginning of this journey, a lot of people die because nobody knows anything about the island, and it's said that all humans that came onto this island died. And this is like the group that comes in on the island and actually ends up doing the most. And what ends up happening is a lot of crazy stuff that I'm not going to say because it's a bunch of spoilers. I talked about the mystery of the island itself, but there's another thing that's even more mysterious arguably, and that's the power system of Tao. This power system is unlike anything I've ever seen. It's a power system that we know absolutely nothing about. Now, it's a pretty, I guess you could say, generic power system in the way that it follows like the whole life force energy kind of thing, but it's shown to us in a very different way from series like Hunter x Hunter with its Nen and stuff like that. It's not like immediately shown to us or taught to the characters. It's actually discovered by the characters themselves, and that's kind of what makes the power system of Tao so interesting. And I love how it's like you yourself have to actually discover what this power system is about. To be honest, it's a really dope concept. The anti-hero protagonist, Gabimaru, is actually quite an intriguing character, and a character that I really enjoyed reading throughout the story. He may seem kind of generic at first, but I guarantee you that as he goes through the story, he becomes a very solid shonen character and fits the anti-hero personality relatively well. Now, towards the end of the story, he does kind of change towards being a nicer person, quote unquote, but that's kind of besides the point because I'm not going to go that far into the analysis. Just saying that Gabimaru is a very interesting protagonist, and you may or may not like him as a character. I personally found him to be quite interesting in his own way. So I talked about the protagonist, let's talk about some of the main antagonists, and I put a plural on antagonists because there's more than one. The antagonists are a group of quote-unquote monsters called the Lord Tensen, and these Lord Tensen are pretty much immortal. Yup, but to be honest, these antagonists, while we don't get a backstory, while we don't get like a huge explanation of where they came from, these antagonists are quite interesting in their own way. I would have liked to see a bit more about who they really are and where they originate from. A few of the Lord Tensen actually had some decent backstories, so I'm not going to complain too much about it there. They're not anything revolutionary in terms of antagonists. They're just very cool looking characters, and they serve their purpose quite well in the story. A common thing with shonen, especially with battle shonen and even more especially with the big three, at least for Bleach and One Piece, that I have found is that killing off characters is something that is kind of difficult to do in these battle shonen. This might piss some people off because I know it's a common thing complained about. The point I'm trying to make is that Hell's Paradise does not hold back with the character deaths. I swear to you, they do not give a single crap about how you feel towards the characters and will end up killing whatever character they feel like at whatever point in the story. But overall, I recommend Hell's Paradise to any of you out there. Check out the first 20 chapters of it. I think you'll enjoy it. It's quite the appealing manga, especially if you're into the dark shonen genre, and especially if you like Jujutsu Kaisen and Chainsaw Man. I talk like I've read those two series, and I haven't, but trust me, one day I'll get to them. That was a basic review of Hell's Paradise. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, like the video, and if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. These videos get no views, but I still do them because I feel like doing them, so subscribe.